Can I retire at 62 with $150,000 saved for retirement? That's what we're going to look at today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. We're actually going to look at two very distinct scenarios. The first scenario is going to be for a married couple who has entered into retirement. They have $150,000 saved for retirement, and they just want to make sure that their retirement savings are going to last forever. So we've got to ask ourselves, how much retirement income can we generate from $150,000 in retirement savings? Looking at Social Security, looking at expenses, adding in inflation, how long is it going to last? The second scenario is going to be very similar to the first, except we're only going to have one person. So for all of you single people out there, we're going to do the same exact strategy, but for a single individual. So, can I retire at 62 with $150,000 saved for retirement? Let's get into that right now. All right, the first thing we want to look at is some assumptions for our married couple, okay? Now, we both know that they're 62 years old, because we talked about that just a second ago. Their Social Security is going to be $1,800 per month. Now, that's for both of them, and that's the average Social Security today. So $1,800 for both of them. That's $3,600 per month. Now, in retirement savings, in an IRA or in multiple IRAs, they have $150,000. We're going to assume this is all pre-tax money, okay? So they have $150,000 in retirement savings. Their expenses are an annual $50,000. Now, I'm getting that number from the U.S. Census Bureau, who did a study, or they do surveys every couple years, and $50,000 is the average expenses for a couple in their 60s. Now, keep in mind, when you go into retirement, you have what you call the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. At the beginning, it's the go-go years. You're going, Paris, London, maybe Paris, Texas, maybe London somewhere here, but you're going. Then you get into the slow-go years, where you don't go as much. Maybe you go on a cruise out of Fort Lauderdale instead of going on a plane trip to Budapest. And then you have the no-go years, where you don't travel anymore and you don't spend as much in retirement because you're older. Now, keep in mind, in the no-go years, the main expense is going to be health care. So that's always going to need to be planned. So we're 62 years old. We've got $150,000 in retirement savings. We're asking the question, can I retire, and how long is my retirement income going to last? So let's look at this. And I want to go through this very slowly so you can understand how we look at this as a financial advisor, how we work with couples to make sure no matter how much you have in assets, no matter how much you save for retirement, we can get you to retirement, we can get you through retirement, and we can protect your ability to stay in retirement. If you'd like to meet with me, all the information is in the description of this video. There's a calendar link actually, and you can get right on my calendar. All right, so let's look at this. We've got $150,000, and I want to look at this in 10-year increments. So I'm going to go 62, 72, 72, 82, 82, 92, or at least until the money runs out. So let's look at this in 10-year increments. And we're also going to have some assumptions on our growth and on our inflation. So the first assumption we're going to take is that all the money that's invested in the market is going to earn 6%. Now, the reason I'm going to use 6% is because that's 2% behind the 50-year average for the S&P 500. The S&P 500 over the last 50 years has averaged 10%. But if you add in inflation, it's averaged 8%. So we're going to go to 6%, which is 2% behind the S&P 500. All right? Now, the second assumption we're going to use is 3% inflation. So 3% is going to be our inflation rate on our $50,000 a year. So we've got $50,000 a year in expenses, but next year that's going to be 3% higher. And how I actually did this was I went into the software, put in all these values, and we actually broke the inflation down on a monthly basis, okay? I like to look at inflation over a monthly basis instead of over an annualized basis, because you can actually get two different figures that way. And so for me, I want to be as accurate as possible, especially if we're planning out your retirement. So we've got $50,000 in expenses, and we're going to start with $4,268 a month. That's our expenses. And our Social Security is $3,600 a month. That's our Social Security, which means we need $668 per month off of our $150,000 in savings for retirement over and above what we're getting in retirement income. So each month, we're getting $3,600 in Social Security benefits. Our expenses, $4,268, are increasing every month with 3% inflation. So the first month, we need $668 off of our IRA. Now keep in mind, this is pre-tax money. So these are gross figures. So if we needed $50,000 net, we would need about $5,000 more a year for taxes. So in this case, we're looking at this as a gross figure. So this is gross, this is not net, okay? So at the end of 10 years, we would have $135,319. So that's at 72. So what's expenses done? For the last 10 years, expenses have grown at 3%. That's the average inflation rate. Now keep in mind, the 106-year inflation rate, since we've been keeping up with CPI, is right about 3.27. Now there's decades which are higher, like the 1970s, and there's decades like the 2008 to 2018 where inflation's lower. You have to look at this as a whole. You can't pick out a certain year and say, oh, hey, boom, actually inflation's going to run at 7% because that's what it did in the year 2022. Or the market's going to suck my entire retirement because that's what it did in the year 2022. You can't do that. You have to look at it as a whole, all right? So we've got $135,000 at 72. Remember, both individuals are the same age. So they're both 72. We're still assuming a 6% rate of return and a 3% inflation rate. But our expenses have now grown to $5,888, from $4,268 to $5,888. And our Social Security has grown to $4,644 because we have a COLA increase on Social Security. We're running a 3% COLA increase. I'm sorry, we're actually running a 2.5% COLA increase on Social Security. So we take $5,888, we subtract $4,644, and we come up with $1,244. So now, monthly, we need this $1,244 from our $135,319. So it's increased, it's basically doubled from 62 age. So now, how long is this going to last? Well, actually, at 82, we have $0. So we've gone from 62 to 82, gone about 20 years with $150,000 in retirement savings, $50,000 in annual expenses, and we're out at 82. Now, keep in mind, we're out of spendable assets at 82, but Social Security is still there. So that's not ending. So that's still paying. In this case, we have not calculated in a home. We haven't calculated any precious metals or any other physical assets. We're only talking about spendable assets, because what we try to do is we work out the solution on the board first to see, can I retire? 82 is pretty close to where we want to get to. Okay, now I don't want to leave any couple at 0 at 82. So at this point, we would take this scenario, we would move it into the software, and we would start creating the Your Financial EKG, because now we need to get into the nitty gritty. Because here's what's going to happen. When we get into the software, we're going to break these expenses down. We're going to look at the inflation on these expenses individually. Because keep in mind, if there's a mortgage payment in that $50,000, let's say there's a $2,000 mortgage payment, it's not going to have inflation on it. So what that's going to do is bring down the overall inflation rate on this plan. So now the money might last longer. But what we're looking at here is just saying, hey, this is the foundation to the house, right? Jesus said, the man who builds his house on the rock, when the storms of life come, the house will stand. We're trying to build our house on the rock. What's the foundation? And then we move the foundation into the software. And that's when we get into the nitty gritty, the tax planning, the inflation, all the fun stuff, right? Okay, so let's just look at this scenario. Now, we're out at 82. So what do we do? Well, there's a couple things that we can do. We could lower expenses, right? And if we lower expenses, maybe this money is going to last longer. What would that look like? Another thing that we could do is work a little bit longer. If we work longer, we're going to pay into Social Security a little bit more. We're going to delay our Social Security. Remember, if you take Social Security at 62, you're only going to get 70% of your full retirement benefit. If we're able to delay this to 63, 64, 65, 66, we're going to get an increased benefit. If we wait till 67, for this couple, they were born after the year 1960, they're going to get 100% of their full retirement benefit. And if they're overachievers and broccoli eaters and they wait till 70, they're going to get 124% of their full retirement benefit. So we could work a little bit longer and delay Social Security. Another option, we could work part-time, which means the money that we would need off of our investments, this $668 a month, this $1,200 a month, maybe we can get that from working at the Home Depot, or working at Tropicana Field, being an usher for the Tampa Bay Rays, or doing whatever. But we can make this up. That means we don't have to touch our retirement savings. Maybe you can be a consultant from your job. I've got many clients who retire from a stressful full-time position. They become consultants. They make about half the money they were making, but that's helping pay this monthly benefit. And they don't have to work as much. So it's a win-win. So those are some of the things that we can do. So in this strategy, let's look at one thing. Let's say the couple says, hey, we want to retire at 62. Let's lower these expenses. Because that's the only thing that we can do right now that I can show you for them that's going to make sense. Because a lot of the other decisions we talked about, working a little bit longer, working, those are kind of personal things. You've got to make that decision on your own, and then we'd work through that in the software. So let's erase this, and let's go back to age 62. And what I want to do is real simple. I want to lower the expenses just a little bit, and I want to see how long this money is going to last if we do that. So let's lower the expenses by $500 a month. Just 500 bucks. You could probably find $500 in savings in your monthly budget. Check your cable bill, right? We stream everything at our house, but most of my clients in their 50s and 60s, a lot of them haven't got on the streaming bandwagon yet. Look at streaming, cut the cord, right? You don't need 1,000 channels, you probably only need 3. In my house, it's like Disney, ESPN. My wife likes the Food Network. So that's really all we got. All right, so we've got $150,000. We're going to look at this in decades again. We're going to take the same assumption, 6%, 3%, but we're going to lower expenses by $500. So we're going to start with $3,756 monthly in expenses. So this is a $500 reduction. Okay, so we've done a $500 reduction in expenses. Now, Social Security is $3,600. We kicked it on at 62. So this is Social Security, which means, man, we don't need a whole lot. What is that? I can do this math. Well, let me look at my paper. It's $156 a month from our retirement savings. So now at 72, we actually grow our money to $242,850, which is really nice because we're earning 6%. We're not taking out over 6%, so we're actually making more money on our money because we don't need as much coming out per month. This strategy works the same if you think about the last one we just did. If you work part-time or you delay Social Security, we're trying to get this number as low as possible. We're trying to get that distribution rate as low as possible. I call that the guardrail rule. Think about driving down a road, right? And I always picture those desert highways that you see in movies. Maybe you live in Arizona or New Mexico or somewhere there's a desert, but you're driving down this desert highway and you've got guardrails on the side of the road, okay? Now, the guardrails keep you on the road. So with this, we're trying to keep our distribution rate low. So in their case, if their distribution rate is, say, 3%, that means they need 3% from their investments on an annual basis for retirement. Their investments, okay, don't need to be situated or positioned like they need a distribution rate of 6, 7, or 8. That's outside of the guardrail. On the other side of the coin, you don't want your investments so conservative that your distribution rate is showing at a 1 or 2%, but you really need 3. That's outside the guardrail. Guardrail rule. We want to keep it within the road so we don't wreck. All right, we're at 72. we've got $242,850. Now, same assumption, 6% rate of return, 3% inflation. Our expenses now have grown from $3,756 to $5,181. Our Social Security has gone from $3,600 to $4,644, which means we only need $537. So at 72, we've grown to $320,000 in retirement savings. So it continues to grow because we're earning 6%. We're taking out this money, but we're taking out less than what we're earning. So we're earning more than we're taking out, which is great, which means our retirement savings are growing. And essentially, let's see, where are we at? At 100 years old, what do we got? $166,356. So from 82 to 100, we end with $166,356 in retirement savings. That's pretty good. And all we did was lower the expenses by $500 because that's something you can control. Remember, there's things that you can control in retirement and there's things you can't control. What you can control is your spending. What you can't control is what the market does. What you can control is how long you work. What you can't control is inflation. So we have to master ourselves in what we can control. Because if we worry about what we can't control, that's going to throw off our entire retirement. Okay, so this was a married couple asking the question, can I retire at 62 with $150,000 in retirement savings? Now, let's look at a single individual. All right, can I retire at 62 with $150,000 saved for retirement as a single individual? Now, you have some unique circumstances when you're married and then when you're single in retirement. But there are some challenges that you have as a single individual that married individuals and families don't have, especially in retirement. The first challenge is that your retirement savings is on me, myself, and I, meaning you are the sole saver, the sole contributor, the sole investor in your retirement savings. The second challenge that you have as a single individual in retirement is that you only get one Social Security, one pension, one set of investment accounts to pull out retirement income. So what we want to do today is address a few of those challenges and see if I can retire at 62 with $150,000 saved for retirement. So here's our assumptions. We're age 62. Our Social Security is $1,800 a month. That's the average Social Security. We're looking at retirement savings of $150,000 a year, and our expenses are $40,000 a year. Now, here's how I got that. The U.S. Census Bureau says that the average person in their 60s has $50,000 in expenses. I'm assuming that that's a married couple. From my experience, single individuals don't have $50,000 in expenses in retirement unless they live in higher cost states. Think California, New York, Massachusetts, things like that. So I backed off by about $10,000. So I went to $40,000 in expenses. Now this could be lower, this could be higher. I just want to show you a simple explanation. So 62, we're going to take a couple assumptions. We're going to earn 6% a year in the market and we're going to have 3% inflation. Okay, so our rate of return is going to be 6%, our inflation is going to be 3%. Now, our expenses are going to start at $3,333 per month, and our Social Security is going to be $1,800 a month. So that means, out of our retirement investments, we need $1,614 per month. So, this is what our expenses are that we need to live. Social Security, that's a guaranteed income, right? Backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Whatever that means to you, okay? Which means we need to pull out of our retirement investments $1,614. This is gross. We're looking at this as a gross figure. This is all pre-tax. So at 72, we have $0. We're out of money. So it doesn't work. $40,000 in expenses, $150,000 in retirement savings, average Social Security, it doesn't work. Obviously, if Social Security is higher, or if you have more retirement savings, it might work. But in this case, it doesn't work. And I'm actually using a rate of return that is a lot higher than what I see normally for individuals in their 60s. A lot of times when I do investment analysis for clients, when I'm looking at their investment portfolio, they're asking me, hey, would you help me manage my retirement assets? A lot of times their rate of return comes in about 4.5%, 5%. And so I'm looking at this as a little bit higher. Now it's 2% behind what the market has averaged for the last 50 years. It's just not a good scenario. It doesn't work. So what can we control? And what can we not control? I can't control the market. I can't control inflation. But what we can control is how much we need in retirement expenses, right? How much we need in retirement income. And we can control maybe working a little bit longer. Now, I don't want to do the working a little bit longer scenario. I just want to look at the expense scenario. So let's go over here. $150,000. We're going to use the same rates of return, 6%, 3%. Let's draw a line here so we don't get confused. Now we're going to drop our expenses to $2,500 a month. So we were at $3,333. Now we're dropping it down to $2,500 a month. Now keep in mind, you've really got to go through your budget with a fine-tooth comb. What I like to do for my clients when we're working through Your Financial EKG for someone, I actually send them an advanced expense plan. And if you've gone through an advanced expense plan with me, leave in the comments how beneficial that was to you. I had a client just email me today and say, hey Drew, that was so eye-opening actually going through our expenses. Now I'm not trying to tell you you need to have a budget. I'm not trying to tell you to be, a Dave Ramsey person. I like Dave Ramsey. What I'm trying to say is we just need to get our spending down on paper so that we can know what we need from our retirement investments in order to retire. We don't want to just walk blindly into retirement hoping rainbows, unicorns, and pixie dust is going to get us through. We need to have a plan. You've never driven somewhere on vacation. You can't go from Tampa, Florida to Panama City Beach, Florida, which is about 6 hours away. You can't go there without a map. Like you could say, oh, I'm going to drive north and then I'm going to turn left and I'm going to go towards Louisiana and I'll get to Panama City. Maybe. But I would rather have a map. I'd rather say, okay, hey, we're going to take US 19. That's going to go along the coast. Or I'm going to go up 75, hit I-10, and go over. We want to have a map. We want to know where we're going. So, Social Security, $1,800 a month. Okay, this is our expenses monthly, which means we need $761 off of our investments, which at 72 puts it at $122,215. So we've gone from $150 to $122 by lowering expenses. Okay? I think you can see where this is going. 122. Let's go to 82. Same rates of return, same inflation assumption. Our expenses have now gone to $3,533 because of inflation. Social Security is $2,322, right? That's the COLA increase there. Okay, that's 2.5% on Social Security, which means we need $1,211 off our investments, which we're out at zero. Just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Unfortunately, it does not work. So what can we do? A couple things. I'm gonna rip off the Band-Aid first. We work longer. We work longer, so we increase our retirement savings. We continue getting the contribution. We continue getting the match from our company. We work a little bit longer. It doesn't have to be full-time. Maybe you work part-time. Again, we just talked about this with the married scenario. If $761 a month is what you need in retirement income, and you are dead set on quitting that job because you are stressed out beyond belief, we got to earn $761 from somewhere to make this last. What do you love to do? What do you enjoy? Go do that, right? Maybe you go work at a golf course because you love to golf. You get paid to work at a golf course and you get free golf. It's a pretty good deal. I got a lot of clients that do that. I love baseball. I go to the Tampa Bay Rays games all the time. I talk to the ushers because they're all like in their 60s and 70s. I say, listen, I want to be you one day. I want to retire. I want to come to the Tropicana field, whatever they call it at that time, and I want to watch free baseball and help people find their seats and watch kids enjoy baseball and sing the 7th inning stretch every year. That's what I want to do. That would be a dream for me. That's awesome. So maybe we work longer. Another thing we do, if we work longer, we delay Social Security. And by delaying Social Security, we're increasing our guaranteed income. Because that's what we need. It's a pension. You're single. Me, myself, and I. So if we can increase our Social Security, we can increase our guaranteed income and we can increase the longevity of our assets. Keep in mind, these two scenarios are at 0, but Social Security still pays. Social Security still pays. So if Social Security is going to continue to pay even when we're out, maybe we should try to delay it as long as possible. Okay? Those are the things we need to do. Now you have to decide what you want to do. All right? Now listen, if you want an EKG, you want to talk to me, go to the description below. Would be honored to help you. When you set an appointment with our firm, you talk to me. You don't talk to somebody else. You get me, and we're going to go through your retirement. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.